Okay, so for this next tutorial, we're going to attempt to get some Google fonts. So uh, type Google Fonts in your search bar and click Google Fonts. And in the categories, I want to use like handwriting because I want things to be sort of flowy and connected. And I'm going to use Pacifico. So get rid of the text. And what's good about this is that, sometimes Google Fonts has fonts that you like for your project and Adobe doesn't, or you don't want to have to, they just might not be accessible from within Adobe. So let's put a space because I notice that everything's connected and that's good, but I want one letter to be separated just because there's something I want to do with that. And I'm going to make the font real big, scroll down, and now I'm going to use the snipping tool. And you can get to the snipping tool just by typing snipping or even just part of it and hit enter. And obviously I've done this before. I'll just drag a bounding box around it, and there it is. Control C copies it. Go to Illustrator. Let's make a HDTV size, nice big canvas, and let's paste it. Now, if you hit Z and you zoom in, you'll see the pixels, and that's because it's not a vector graphic, it's a bitmap graphic. There's a fine distinction between the two. If you hit Control 0, that's one of my favorite ways to zoom out. Control 1 or Control 0, it'll zoom out. And while it's still selected, if you actually, let me zoom back in. Let me show you when you convert this to, by the way, it's still selected. When you do this, if you go low fidelity photo, it will process and basically vectorize the whole thing. So I wanted you to see how smooth that is compared to what it was before because Illustrator has basically processed it and turned it into a vectorized image. So let's see. Notice now in here we have this layer or this sublayer. And for the next step, I want to do something. I want to be able to do path offset and those sorts of things. But you'll notice that path offset is grayed out. That's because we're going to have to expand this to get it to kind of break apart. So hit OK. And you'll notice now there's more sublayers. In fact, there's a group and another group. And each of these, if you start hiding these, you'll see what they actually are. These are all those little pieces. It basically broke it into individual, everything that could be broken into an individual part. And you can almost see right there, there's a piece right there that was hiding. This is the C, and this is the REATE part. And then all these other ones are the white shapes. Okay. So every object that was separable got its own layer. And interestingly enough, I can select this and hit delete, and now it's gone. Even though it's still all grouped, it's like that allows you to reach inside the group and just delete stuff out. So what I want to do though is, and this is typically what you'd want to do, let's see, what's that showing me? When I select this, all these blue little squares are showing me everything that's selected. That's interesting to know. If I right click and say ungroup, now notice one of the groups is gone, but it's still inside one more group. If I want direct access to each of these shapes such that I can grab the white rectangle and move it or something. Otherwise, I suppose I could click right here and that grabs just that white rectangle, and now I can move it. So I'm just pointing these things out to myself and to anybody else who's watching as I'm trying to get a handle on how this Illustrator program works, because it does things that I'm very interested in. So let's ungroup this one more time. Right click, ungroup. And now you'll see I have all the sublayers And if I click off, you got to click off, because if you try to grab it while everything's selected, it's still going to treat it like it's a group, even though it's not. So if you click off and then select this white rectangle, now it makes sense that it's, movable, and I can delete it. Now, I don't want to delete these because I need those to kind of punch a hole in what's behind it. So this next move, if you select the C, this next move, it's going to do something you don't want. It worked over here, but it got rid of the C. And I guess for now, my best explanation for that is that the computer gets confused about what's, minus front is what I was just clicking on the Pathfinder tool. And if you can't find that, you got to go Window, Pathfinder right there. And anyways, minus front is essentially saying, take whatever is sticking out in the front of something and punch a hole in what's behind. So select those, and these things are out in front of the black text, the dark gray text, and they will punch a hole in, what's behind it. So that's exactly what I want. And now that I have separated this out, I want to make this a lot bigger. Maybe not that big, but yeah, bigger. Like, I'll make it a little smaller. And it's almost like we're going to make a logo out of this thing. And I'm going to hit Control-Shift-D so that I can see. It's a little easier on the eyes, I guess. And I'll hit Control-0. All right, so let's see. Now that we have these things separated, for the C in particular, let me see. I want to do a gradient. And then, so I just click this thing to give it the gradient look. And then I'm going to use this gradient tool to turn it so it's like this. And I'm going to hold Shift so it stays vertical. And there we go. Now I'm going to click this and hit Path Offset. And I'll make it like 20 or something. And then, while it's still selected, I haven't clicked off or anything, I'm going to adjust this. I want to actually reverse it. So I'm going to hold Shift while I bring it up there, and then I'm going to pull it down so it's basically the opposite of what we had before. I think I need to probably expand it. Let me see. How do I do that? I grab the black square. Yeah. And bring this down a bit. Just trying to make it so it's not too dark up here and not too light down there. So, yeah, actually I might need to bring the center point down a little bit. Yeah. So that kind of gives it a nice effect, almost like it's a little bit 3D-ish. And for now, that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, so do a screenshot of this and submit it in Canvas for your credit, and I'll see you in the next video.